What's up, folks? I'm just going to hop right into it. I met Quincy Harrison at UW-Madison in the fall of 2008 at a fraternity organizational event, and we said we'd link up the following year at our house, which we were moving into, our fraternity house at 16 Langdon. So the following fall, we set up an extra bedroom at the house. I brought a list of ideas in my wire-bound notebook, as I was known for doing. If you know my process, you know I put a lot down on paper. And, I bought a laptop right before college, but I still use notebooks most of the time. And Coasty's Song was one of these ideas that I brought on the list, like 4, 5, 6 ideas. And we came up with the chorus right there and recorded. I wrote my verse and recorded it, and then Quincy did his portion. A girl he met at UW, a girl from Green Bay, did the bridge. And my connection, Lorenzo Zamella, who I knew from work, did a photo shoot for us. He did the cover art and promotional images. I met him through Danny Peterson, who was a childhood friend of mine. We played soccer together, eventually track in high school, and just kind of, seeing each other around. We're always cool. I trusted him. And, he's a work associate. He recruited me for Phi Gamma Delta at UW-Madison, aka Fiji. But anyway, Quincy made the beat for Coasty's Song, mixed and mastered the track, and then put it on iTunes and MySpace. This was at the very end of the MySpace era, when folks were moving to Facebook, and it was being used more as a music platform than social media. And we promoted it heavily on Facebook and Twitter. It's despised now, of course, but this was early on in the game when we got away with the mass tagging for promotion without being pinged. And, you learn about the limits of what's allowed. We made Facebook events for our music, our drops. Hardly anyone else was doing that before us. The play count on MySpace was reset, but I think we got up to 30 or 50 Ks before we decided, even though we didn't have a video, we should upload it to YouTube, to expand our reach. And so I made a video in iMovie with the related images I found online and put it on YouTube. And some people bitched about us using their images, like Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, so we blocked them out with annotations. But we decided to keep the music clean for the most part too, so we wouldn't get dinged for that. The idea was to make fun PG-13 rated music about Madison and UW and Wisconsin. Both of us had experience writing and producing music, so it was easy for us to adapt to each other's style and knock out song after song, pump out idea, The first publicly released song online was the Coasty Song for me. He had some others out there already, but that was my first public release, I consider, because it went out to everyone on the internet, I guess. But I was, hustling mixtapes before that. And we received international coverage from The Guardian in the UK to York University in Toronto, Canada. UW and MATC were including us in their curriculum, and some other schools as well. Interviews, etc. I have a lot of this on my site under the media coverage section if you want to take a look. Mike Posner knew some of the chorus when he showed up for a show in Madison, and he actually sang part of the chorus of the Coasty Song with us in the lobby. And then the R. Kelly conversation. Quincy somehow met this artist that went to IU or did for a few years and knew R. Kelly. This apparently led to a conversation with him where R. Kelly offered to hop on a Coasty Song remix for $250,000 or $500,000. I can't remember which ridiculous amount it was, but Quincy actually asked me if I had this money the Chicago artist was asking for. Mims apparently contacted us too somehow for a feature for $1,000, and Rafael Casal allegedly offered to do a music video for $1,000. I didn't see or hear any of these conversations in person. This is what Quincy told me. Obviously, on 11 different scholarships and working through school, I didn't have that kind of money either. But shout out to all you fantastic people for helping me out with the scholarships. I really do appreciate you, and I love you. But Quincy actually, again, asked me if I had this amount for R. Kelly, $250,000 or $500,000, dead ass. Where the fuck would this money come from? He refused to show me the numbers, for the money that we made off the song. He allowed me to have a few $100s of our money, and he said the rest would go to the group, which was a complete lie, of course. We continued recording, dropping music. I spread a lot of happiness with Zooniversity music. My style was growing popular, and I drew massive interest to Wisconsin culture. After the split, we had over 50 unreleased songs. Quincy said 80 actually a couple times, when we were still speaking. There's a few of them there if you care to take a look. I learned some about recording from Quincy. He gave a small number of good tips, as few as possible. But he refused to teach me anything regarding music production or engineering. He said, look it up. There's a YouTube video on it. Look it up. He had previous experience with music videos with his Bloomington friends, so he had some experience directing like myself. I did our video montages, though, in Zooniversity, which was a trending way to drop visuals in place of videos at the time, so that we had something. The only show off where I saw was for the Orpheum party, and that's because we did it. Otherwise, I did what I could, kept recording, and Quincy continued limiting my opportunities, denying all types of shows and collaborations. Quincy made the beats. I made the ideas and the culture. Sometimes I'd be there during mixing, but he usually couldn't mix unless I left. I was more the concept and writing guy. I also had the business and work experience, the street and field knowledge. I've written all my lyrics. No one's ever written a single line for me. I helped Quincy out with his verses and hooks sometimes and contributed however I could to the overall production of the song. And again, no one has ever been my writer or producer in the realm of idea generation and or management. And if you're for some reason decades out of touch with music, when hip-hop folks say producer, they almost always mean beat maker and or audio engineer. It refers to a technical music production position. It does not mean executive producer, supervisor, or lead creative. I've never had a manager either in regard to my writing, music, arts, and entertainment independent career. No one has ever offered except for one of my old managers at Nitty Gritty, and that could have been fake. He didn't have any experience, ideas, or opportunities for me, so, there's no point in that. Part of Quincy's scam, which became apparent in the following years, was telling others that he was the brains of the operation, the manager, head artist of Zooniversity, executive producer of the group, or some other lie. Or that I agreed in some way to let him lead the duo for whatever reason. He and his scammers are discreet, of course, but one of them changed disputes to deputes in my Wikipedia article in the late 2010s in the line, after disputes within the group, Zooniversity came to an end. So that would read, after deputes within the group, Zooniversity came to an end. You could look that up. It means I gave him the power to lead the group. That's something he and his fascist alliance would do. I'd never in any form agreed to let him lead, take the group, or handle our finances, not once. All publicly accepted scams at my expense. I also get the feeling that he's made it out to seem Zooniversity ever included anyone other than he and myself, based on other anonymous edits to my Wikipedia page, painting a fake picture that JT Roach was ever in Zooniversity or whoever else. Again, Zooniversity music was over after the creator of the group, myself, ended the music duo in April of 2011. One of the last things we did was perform together on a crane boat on Lake Mendota as part of a boat parade. Who was there but Alexandra Offerdahl, a chick I hooked up with not long before that, who I thought I liked. We seemed to vibe, and she texted me "I love you" on our way home after we fucked for the first time. Apparently I didn't respond fast enough, because a couple minutes later I got a sorry that was meant for someone else. That was the last time we communicated until she showed up with Quincy to this performance like it never happened, and with JT Roach, who introduced us. JT Roach set me up with an opportunity around this time to record a radio commercial through his daddy's company, Roach Projects, for $150. Couple hundred maybe, not sure. But of course the Alex girl was my wife in this commercial. It was for Summit Credit Union, very family oriented commercial. He also paid me around the same time to invite my Facebook friends to his fan page, and I thought I liked his music at the time, so it made sense. We did a song together before he and Quincy did, actually. But JT changed the whole song concept after I sent him my verse and then released it. It's a "I'm Gonna Make It" type song, and he dropped in a verse from one of his other friends on it, which was much more serious alongside mine. So it seems like I look like I'm obsessed with women or something, or lost in them, some sexist shit. or I'm aloof, having white boy problems, classist, racist, insecurity shit. I don't know. Who knows? I'm not from that culture. I'm not sure why he did that. And then Quincy told me right after it dropped that I sounded like my verse didn't fit with the rest of the song. This is somehow part of their story. I don't know. It was still a decent verse for me, possibly the only authentic part of that whole record. And I have to remind myself of this, you know, as I'm always rapping from a place of truth. And it doesn't really matter what track my words are on if I like my part. Not sure where they are now, but they were clearly fabricating a storyline on an industry level. JT's a bald white singer from suburban Fitchburg, Wisconsin, who sang cover songs on YouTube, from a wealthy, well-known family who went to UW and graduated a couple years before myself. At some point, Quincy was signed to a major label deal with JT Roach. Like, JT Roach was supposed to be me then, or is that Young Gravy? After I ended Zooniversity in April of 2011, Quincy and JT put out an EP. The music video for their single featured a chick I used to bang, of course, Eduardo de Souza. Again, Quincy and JT snuggling up with someone that I used to be with. Then they both announced that they were signed to Red Bull Records. When did that really happen? And what was this narrative they were trying to sell me? They did something there, where JT was supposed to be me in the public's eye. Then, of course, shortly after, you have First Wave Young Gravy brought in from Minnesota and groomed into another flued out UW First Wave superstar. What was it? Griefy, Gravy, Graf, Grave. What was it? Wisconsin, Minnesota, Norwegian, Swiss, Madison, Rochester, skinny fit or scrawny, bald, bro. Clearly they were on some mega uber fantastic privilege culture shit, same as their ancestors and the shittiest people that the world has to offer. The hee we got you boy culture. All them from insanely advantaged backgrounds, all with a flair for ruining my life and harassing me whenever possible. The three of them also really into evangelical atheism when they're around me, really trying to push atheism on me for some reason. I never initiated any conversations about religion, but they're really trying to force this meaningless hoe-ass life on me for some reason. Those type of things, so I don't know. Complete fraud or not. This maniacal sexual obsession as well with me existed well before then, since I was a small boy, but this is one of the peaks on the timeline for sure. Quincy made a weird comment once too, and I wish I would have realized the correlation with it and this obsession he had with going after girls I used to be with. Quincy wanted to have some type of sexual experience with me, and I didn't give it to him. Was he telling himself that we were hooking up with the same person or something? Him slobbering up my sloppy seconds, or what's the thing there? When we were in the upstairs studio together, I remember, which was the second one after the main floor studio we had, and then we had to move upstairs because more people were moving into the house at 16 Langdon. He said that we should both take our big dicks out and show the camera for one of our Zoo Day Tuesday episodes. And Zoo Day Tuesday was our weekly web series. This is not anything that we would do. I think we got to episode 5 or 6, but he took all those down without asking, of course. I specifically remember brainstorming ideas for this next episode, though, and having this interaction. He looked right at me in the eyes without wavering and was dead ass serious about something. I've never been the type to take my dick or balls out, though, or whatever sexual assaulters and sexually closeted people do, and those people on Jackass, which I've never been into either. Thinking back on this moment, he definitely wanted something gay to go down. I turned that offer down because I'm not gay or bi. I don't care if you are, I'm just not. But obviously that was not the right answer. I wouldn't even bring this up, but I've learned since then that people, I guess, hold grudges against those that don't find them attractive or fall in love with them. This might have been another turning point for him because I wasn't in love with him or something. He and others like him are from a different culture, obviously. Authentic, self-aware, intelligent, working humans don't do this wah he didn't want to see my pee-pee shit at all whatsoever. This is not our culture, and we don't waste time on learning this pathetic obsession and game of inferior human beings like that one. Quincy was clearly hurt and offended that I didn't want to have this homosexual experience with him. What was he doing exactly with this closet gay obsession with me, hanging around with my exes? I don't know. He was a fraud and a lunatic. All the hours we spent together working on music, and he was working to destroy my life. Me working to uplift us, create, innovate, progress. He plotting up a new scheme, stealing all of my work for himself whenever possible, deterring every contact and professional connection away from me that he could. I despise people that use their sexuality and privilege as socioeconomic weaponry. Thinking more about it now, he was consistently calling me homophobic names related to beef too. As time went on, it was an increasing amount of beef stick and beef cake. Again, this slavery, torture, harassment, abuse, bullying, etc. culture and personality of his have never been comical or otherwise entertaining to me. So obviously I told this criminal attacker that it wasn't okay, exhausting as it was to have to scold this immature adult-aged boy so often. I lived across the hall from an openly gay friend of mine and next door to someone experimenting, and neither of them ever called me any of those names. Quincy was the worst. And it would have been nice to realize this sooner, but remember, I'm not a coulda, shoulda, woulda person. Never have been. The positivity and innovation from Zooniversity, the unique ideas and widespread success was because of me. I've always been very proud of myself, and I've always known that I deserve better. Horrible people have surrounded themselves with me since the beginning, though. I had all the area connections from the jump. Our music spread exponentially because I worked hard to build my network in the Madison area in my teen years. All of our drops were going straight to the community around Dane County and around Wisconsin, and also UW, with all the people I've met there as well. Along with the social media and street level promo, we helped build our name by throwing big dance parties for philanthropic causes at our house. I invited my entire Facebook friends list, which was over 2,000 people in 2011. I was a philanthropy chair or on the committee for all or almost all of these philanthropy dance events too. I invited my whole friends list when we promoted our tracks. I was our top promoter. He had more friends and followers on social media technically, but I was active and connected in the Madison area community and was for years before we met. I held far more diverse and professional connections than he, and most of mine were physically in the area. As the social, cultured, working member of the group, my connections weren't just internet people and college kids. Zooniversity got a lot of coverage all around Wisconsin, but almost none in Indiana comparatively, which is where he was born and raised, in Bloomington, Indiana. Fun fact, he explained that the KKK was started there or near there. Anyway, our last performance together was on a crane boat, and our last song, Just Relax. We never released any more music after the Jimmy Thing, Just Relax song, but even that Quincy released as his own song featuring me. This record was the final straw. For this Dave Matthews remix beat, we held a competition across all social media to find the next feature in the open verse of the song. It was exciting because I've been supporting local Madison and Wisconsin hip-hop since the jump, and this was finally an opportunity to get somebody on one of our tracks. I was always approaching Quincy with a new idea and collaborators we should do a track with. He said no almost every time for whatever ignorant or lazy reasons, usually insulting local artists. Similar to shows, he'd speak down on local schools, reaching out, area venues. He even told me that I should stop responding to so many commenters and people texting and calling me with congratulations and love. It doesn't make me look as cool or whatever. The contest runs and we have plenty of submissions to work with. One of my favorites was Marvy Marv of Track Team Music. He dropped it super fast and it sounded great, especially considering how quick he put that out. He was in Track Team Music with an old friend of mine, John Brown, I used to play football with. We eventually collaborated on the No Excuses record. Swisha of Rockford also did a remix to the song or added his verse to it. He was known as a real dope, like, area indie mixtape artist. We did the Basement record down the line. And then there's this dude from UW Whitewater who crushed it, another popular artist from UW Oshkosh that hopped on it. Two guys from Quincy's old crew did a full flip of the track, chopping up parts of our verses to compose the hook. But then Quincy says out of the blue that the song is going to feature a rapper I'd never heard of or spoken to, Loggy, from the West Coast. Even though we had all these submissions and people interested and some doing numbers. Quincy was obsessed with a frat rap thing that he came across in his musical explorations. I was into lyricism, culture, instrumentation, local music, etc., collaboration, nuance. Quincy, no. He started to call us frat rappers in an interview with WSUM once, and I had to shut that down right away, which probably sent him into another one of his temper tantrums. He also mentioned in the same interview, after the interviewer called him a coastie for being from out of state, that he had a scholarship. He never explained this scholarship to me, but brought it up several times. So making frat boy, white collar, white privilege, sarcastic lifestyle music seemed to be his inspiration secretly. That was not me. We agreed to make PG-13 music directed more to Madison, Wisconsin, mainline audiences and college students, but I never signed up to be some kind of punk colonialist parody rapper that holds fake competitions to flex privilege muscles and exhibition local culture. Someday all these people that vehemently insisted that I was making parody raps should realize how racist, classist, and maliciously slanderous their actions have been to my life. Zooniversity was not a parody group, and I've never been a parody artist. Never described us or myself as a parody. Logan from suburban Chicago wound up at ESPN right out of college. Daniel Robe, also from suburban Chicago, who did the other part of the chorus alongside myself, got a gig at a major news station in Chicago right out of college. Quincy and JT landed a major record deal right out of college, or before. We never got into a physical altercation of any kind unless he attacked me or roofied me while I was sleeping or something. That's his culture through and through, and he made a lot of jokes about roofies. I never threatened or attacked him a single time. He insulted and threatened me constantly and said that he'd simply cut me out of the group and add in another white rapper from Wisconsin instead because he made the beats and mixed the songs and I was just another white trash Wisconsinite. He loved to rip off honest working class people. He verbally abused me on a daily basis, misrepresented me obsessively, and started robbing me on an ongoing basis soon after we met. I was a positive, considerate, genuine, creative, unique, hardworking, tough individual, only uplifting and collaborating with him, never talking shit, backing him up, bringing ideas to the table, authentic culture and talent. Teach Me How to Bucky was a huge hit, a sensation. Quincy's lied about the whole project from the beginning too, saying he came up with the song or the title of the remix. Again, he literally did not. He told me from the jump that he spotted a tweet from Kurt Peters, a fraternity brother and another Wisconsin native, who tweeted those words, "Teach me how to Bucky." The tweet's since been deleted. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Quincy paid him off with the money he stole from our group. I was the one to come up with the name Zooniversity Music. I came up with it after this brainstorming session here. A couple of the other names on there. Bucky Bad, Private Lesson, The A-Curve, College Kids, and Zooniversity is on there. So that's it. So Quincy did not come up with the name Zooniversity, the song name Teach Me How to Bucky, or the beat, which was from a Cali Swag District song. Also, I did the chorus with Daniel Robe, and I was a member of Zooniversity dancing in the video. I also invented the Zooniversity music style. I had my continued style going from my high school days with a few nuances since, of course. And I just simplified it for the group. I did experimental combinations on top, pastel or chromatic colored chinos and dress pants on the bottom, basketball or skate shoes. And because it was not Quincy's style, I let him borrow my clothes when we did photo shoots, shows, interviews, guerrilla marketing. He called dressing up like this wearing our costumes, as if I personally didn't have to go through the real world implications of inventing and rocking this style over the course of my real life, as an authentic person. But he took all the benefits regardless, while attacking me for it. For those of you that are uneducated about Wisconsin culture, Wisco is the Badger State. And so Wisconsinites are known as Badgers. It's not just UW students. And so don't be a fuckboy or fuckgirl. That's why I rocked the Milwaukee Brewers shirt in a video, and the shirt for my Madison-based dance party that brought in folks of different shapes and colors from all around the area, alongside the Teach Me How to Bucky shirt in the video. I didn't like the lips from the Civil War Memorial moving to my lyrics the first time I saw it. And this was at Logan's apartment during an editing session. And I also found it weird that half of my Dougie was cut off. It was only like, this part of it. But otherwise, it was cool. Logan had the connection to Camp Randall, so we were able to premiere the song on the Jumbotron, and that was key. I was able to see it in person. And from there, the shirts started popping up everywhere. The video was shared all across Facebook and Twitter, YouTube remixes, SoundCloud remixes. The radio was playing it. I set the record at the time for the longest running #1 song on the local hip hop station, 93.1 Jams. When the time came to buy the initial batch of shirts, I offered to split the cost with Quincy. He said he'd use the money that we earned from the Coastie song though, so that made sense, and he had a vehicle and I didn't. So for the sake of time, he wound up going and getting them from Top Promotions at Westtown Mall, and he got them printed there. I actually got one initially, but had to pay for this shirt with my own cash full price. I could access our Coastie song email fairly consistently, but after we switched to Zooniversity accounts, he started changing the password for both, so I'd have to ask to get back in. The lockouts got longer and longer, and then he locked me out entirely, saying that he was better with that stuff. This is around when my Clifton Beefy email was hacked too, shortly after I dropped the Red and White remix on September 8th of 2010. The backup email is still coastiesong@gmail.com. The paper that I wrote our original ideas on, which included the Coastie song, disappeared around this time as well. My laptop also crashed. This was a month prior to when Teach Me How to Bucky dropped. We both co-directed the video. He worked on editing the video with Logan more because I wasn't invited to those sessions. He started telling interviewers I didn't help with editing because I was out of town doing a philanthropy event, which is partially true. I was donating my time to raise money for Red Cross for a day or so during the ball run, leading up to that weekend. But that's it. Those two were plotting to scam me from the beginning, run the documents. This is public information obtained through a public records inquiry, so it's perfectly legal to post. I brought life to Wisconsin hip-hop that never existed. Through the Coastie songs, Zooniversity, Basement Made, my writing, music, videos, concept work, I'm an OG of Wisconsin hip-hop, zero debate. They excluded me from the beginning. I wasn't mentioned at all through this whole string of emails which detailed the premiere of the Teach Me How to Bucky video and shirt sales. ESPN mentioned Teach Me How to Bucky. It was tough finding a Badger Gear store that wasn't selling the shirts. Folks shouting me out across the street, "Beef, hey, I know your dance." Kids were dancing to my song, asking for autographs. I was showing appreciation for Madison, Wisconsin, UW, education, local culture, music. They're hanging a Teach Me How to Bucky banner in Pick and Save right now. I took this video recently in 2023. I'm right alongside the other famous UW sayings. Legendary status. We turned up for UW and Wisconsin in the video. It was cool to feature some UW celebrities and grab some fun shots around campus. I love directing and filming, performing and dancing. I'm an entertainer, duh. The song blew up. Soon after, I saw Zooniversity Music LLC show up on a piece of mail sent to Quincy. I approached him about it, and he snatched it out of my hand. The paper is organizing him as the sole proprietor of my company. He also met with UW behind my back to organize the payment deal. This is how he handled meetings for the group. He hid them from me, lied, and then scammed me however possible behind my back. Doing interviews was mentally and emotionally exhausting, being scammed in front of, millions of people, and having to pretend that I'm okay with it so I can push through and hopefully get a decent opportunity someday. So I'm working this whole time, dealing with family shit, trying to smile through the pain, praying for something legitimate and decent. to finally one day be available to me as a result of all of my honest hard work, innovation, originality, adaptability, and professional experience, lifetimes beyond my peers and their forefathers. At one point, a homie of mine from high school, Zach Wahoviak, reached out and said his brother could do a graphic for us. He did it, said it'd be $50 if we wanted to use it. We decided that we wanted to use it, and then Quincy decided he was gonna go ahead and steal it and not pay the dude. I disagreed. Then he told me I was being soft for wanting to compensate those for their work. He, of course, went and used that graphic and promotional materials without my approval right away with no hesitation. I wonder how many people he's ripped off, this industry plant scam artist. I approached Quincy countless times about the money, pay, finances, splitting everything evenly or fairly somehow, but he just insulted me and dismissed me entirely. He's just a crybaby. It's been spoon-fed everything his entire life. Nana nana boo boo, I'm allowed to mass scam you because I'm massively privileged and you are nothing special to a god like me because I'm scamming you. And if you call me or touch me or do anything to me I consider assault or whatever, I'm gonna call the op-oppy popos. Would I have loved to whoop the shit out of Quincy? Clearly. Was he trying to set me up to do this? Clearly. I was working multiple jobs for years before college and several on paper before I arrived out of necessity to pay for tuition, food, and rent. And I continued working through school because I had to pay off my loan. This concept seems hard to understand or lost on those in my generation or around my age. The weekly or bi-weekly, you're a bum, where's my money, Cliff? The price just went up. Do better. I was also running my own side sales business. Before I started at UW, I sold mixtapes, ringtones, poems as a teenager, hustled random merch out of my backpack. I won awards in buying and merchandising management in DECA at the regional and state level, went on to internationals in Atlanta. I was vice president at DECA, an officer in FBLA, and I won 4th in state in FBLA for video production. I'd been well known as an entrepreneur among peers for years before college. I worked hard in school too, public school the whole way, and I got into UW on 10 different scholarships. He had zero of this experience. He never had a real job in his life, his own words, and obviously without paying me what I'm owed and fixing the damage that's been done to my reputation publicly, he never will. I heard he scammed over $100,000 from the group before 2012. I haven't been paid a single cent from Teach Me How to Bucky or from any of our payouts on any of our videos. I also wasn't paid for our Badger Rose Bowl promo and performance. My total earnings from Zooniversity currently amounts to less than $1,000. Quincy Scott Harrison, aka Quincy Quale, told me shortly after I met him that he was a direct descendant of William Henry Harrison. He eventually told me at his house in Indiana during spring break that his mom worked for the feds doing he doesn't even know. He was older. Somebody was paying for his tuition, which is 3 times what we pay in Wisconsin. And Madison area police have always been horrible to me. I was assaulted by 4 officers in the summer leading up to college, so pressing charges was not a viable option. U.S. president bloodline and Fed family signed to a major label with major label lawyers right out of college. So all that together, obviously terrifying. And again, me alone versus everybody, or very close to it as far as I could live. All top reasons why I tried to put a smile on and fight through the pain, stomach the mass scam and torture, and I could make it out on top, I thought. The White House Historical Association says, quote, Harrison was in fact a scion of the Virginia planter aristocracy. He was born on February 9, 1773 at Berkeley Plantation to one of Virginia's wealthiest slave-owning families. His primary goal was to secure more white land for the white settlers away from natives. Well known for being a privileged, ignorant, lazy, flip-flopping, two-faced fraud of a human being like Quincy is. Quincy Scott Harrison, William Henry Harrison, very similar. I've gone as far as telling people that I was getting paid for the song or shirts. Telling partial truths to get the endless gangs of bullies off my back, or I'd say it helped me pay for my education. I was trying to look professional, keeping my adversity to myself. The idea was that I could keep my head down and use real world experience to bolster my creative and professional resumes. Obviously, I feel sorry for his family, and that's not fair to us. People will bitch a lot about this video and try to make, even more of what's mine theirs, and, put more on my shoulders as much as they can fit. It's been very difficult to open up about it for the reasons I've mentioned. I also told Quincy from the get-go that I suffered from depression. All this scamming with the simultaneous attacks from the other terroristic regressives after I gave my heart, soul, passion, energy, and life to my craft, hip-hop and Wisconsin culture, it made me suicidal. I never drank alone before the scam, not at all. After the mass scam was initiated, I started doing it more and more until I was getting drunk alone every single day. And no, not a single person was willing to hear me out entirely. A few minutes in and they changed the conversation or cut me off or turn it on me. I've also had a huge problem with aggressive and malicious stalkers since then too. Countless people trying to fight, rob, rape, or kill me, literally, not a figure of speech, not one of your tropes or diatribes, or another one of those kitschy, woke, grifter starter pack terms. This scam has additionally resulted in an all-out assault on my personal life and emotional well-being, and has encouraged the masses to create isolated and dangerous circumstances for me whenever possible for what's closing on 15 years. Again, I don't need any more people telling me I missed my chance and should have done this sooner, or any of those, well, I type units. All the, it's not my fault you didn't take care of business, or, people like Martin Luther King Jr. get killed every time, right? None of you have ever been authentic or consistent enough to say anything original, insightful, or compelling. It would be better for the environment if you stopped wasting air. I was robbed of most of our connections trying to get a hold of us, and not just him, through our shared email and social media accounts. Who knows what he was telling others about me, that I was secretly pretending to be this, or I didn't really know that, or what conversations he redirected to himself personally. I have no idea. How many tens of thousands of people, or millions, have actively worked to commit crimes against me and destroy my life since I started Zooniversity? Me never having the rights to move to the next level, never paid, no justice, career and personal life destroyed by scammers and oppressors. I was also set up for a felony by my fraternity brothers in December of 2011. The fraternity will be a different video, but I will mention a few key factors that pertain to Zooniversity here. So after moving out of our house in 2011, I decided to live with fraternity brothers in an apartment for the 2011-2012 year. Tom Bestie and I had planned on it, but we couldn't find another roommate, so we had to go with Tim Fram, a stereotypical Jew from suburban New York. It wasn't that he was Jewish that annoyed me. I never once insulted him for his ethnic or religious beliefs. I could deal with the general idiotic stereotype shit. But then he started talking down on my family, my mom, brothers, cousins, black friends that came over, spewing inferiority complex shit into the ears of every girlfriend I bring by, saying Quincy was the brains and talent of Zooniversity, and I'm just a lucky, hick, dirty white boy, white privileged scumbag, trying to bait me like Quincy did, of course, saying I'm fake, my raps are fake, I'm not taking school seriously. He once told me, "When are you going to grow up?" as he was writing a check for rent from his parents' checkbook. He hasn't had a job, or he didn't have to have a job until his mid-20s, one of those types. I told him to stop, but that doesn't stop people who've been privileged for hundreds, probably thousands of years. I approached him multiple times asking why he was doing this, if he had a problem he needed to air out, and he said no a couple times, and then the other time he said that he was talking to my girl about his erectile dysfunction problems. But he was harassing me from day one at the apartment, bitching, gossiping, the whole sardonic culture vulture, double speak things, of course. And like with Quincy, I figured as a fraternity brother, he would learn or improve himself over time, especially after we lived together and spent more time together. Not at all. He's just another insecure complainer before and living together must have fueled his little dick energy more than ever. Next, he started messing with my audio equipment without my permission. I also had finals to study for. The article in Google is nonsense, written by fascists, and they love to leave that up there. When he started touching my things without asking, I went for a walk with Tom, the other roommate, to talk about his behavior over the past few months. I told him I wanted to kick Tim's ass. He said something like Tim's bigger, or, like should be some qualifiers for that. But Tom said if Tim threw down, instigating a fight or agreeing to fight, that it was fine for me to hit him. So we went back to the apartment, and eventually Tim comes back. I approach him, we exchange words, and then he throws down his backpack and starts coming at me. So I hit him in the face. Neither of us were drunk. I defended myself and hit him in the chin once. Tom got between us. Tim also hit me in the face once, leaving a light bruise. He probably stepped in because Tim started bawling, crying immediately after I hit him the one time. The one little chintzy chin shot. Not even the eye or the nose. One of the easiest places to take a hit. But he started leaking blood and tears everywhere. And then he ran to his room and got his pepper spray and threatened me with that, saying I'm going to the police and I'm going to tell them exactly what happened. I let him go. The cop came one of the next nights and I answered the door. First thing he said was, "Are you Clifton Griefy?" I said, "Yes." "Did you hit Tim Fram?" I said, "Yes." "He hit me too." The black officer, highly heralded for his police work, then smirked and without a moment's hesitation slapped the cuffs on me and without reading me my Miranda rights brought me to jail. I spent the holidays in jail, and when I came out on the other side in 2012, UW was talking about expulsion. So I met with the dean of students and explained my case. I did wind up working out a situation where I'd be put on non-academic probation where I could keep going as long as nothing else happened, and I was good there, so it worked out. I was also kicked out of my apartment because bitch-ass Tim signed a restraining order. Was it 50 or 80 feet, and there wasn't that much room in our apartment, so I had to leave. The apartment complex, of course, made me pay out the rest of my rent, and they didn't look for a subletter. I tried several times to send Tom and Tim a subletter, but obviously they just turned me down. Anything I sent, what did they do with that extra room? I don't know. And then the court fees, and I wound up doing 2 years of probation, but got off early release due to good behavior. The mark on my criminal record has made getting any job an insanely complex series of jumping through hoops. They tried to have a felony put on me and expel me from school amongst everything else, so I had to work through that. No one reached out from the fraternity I helped found and establish on campus. They all left me ripped off, beaten, battered, and dead, except Danny. We kicked it for a while after that, which was great. Thank you, Danny. I love you for that. And also Tony Lins, I believe I saw you some too. You reached out, so I appreciate you for that. Quincy wasn't there when it happened, and I didn't tell him that it did, yet shortly after, he texted me and said, "You sucker punched Tim. You need to get help." I also got an email from the president of our fraternity at UW, Martin Uraga, saying that I was kicked out of the fraternity for hitting Tim. And this is without a trial, even though a trial is in our bylaws. So they broke the bylaws to kick me out of the fraternity that I helped found. More of my experience made sense last year when I saw an article published on Wisconsin, which is one of the publications for WFAA where I work now, about Phi Gamma Delta in the past. Turns out it was founded by members of the KKK. So those purple hoods that we wore during ceremony make a lot more sense now. No joke. Phi Gamma Delta wears purple KKK outfits during ceremony. I had to let the world know this is fucked up. Also, we were the most diverse fraternity on campus when I was in it. Black, brown, yellow, red, white, the whole racist color wheel. Dead ass. So it was really weird when we got in these outfits. Right when we were about to join, we didn't see them until initiation day. It was like 50 of us seeing these outfits for the first time. But we had the lowest dues on campus. Rooms are going to be $550 at the house the next year. The colors were the same as my high school, purple and gold. And my pledge educator was my childhood pastor who baptized me at Burke Lutheran Church. Like Quincy, he was from Indiana. But anyway, fuck the KKK and all the Indiana KKK types. I had to apply to over 1,000 jobs over the next 10 years to get my first permanent office job that I now have at WFAA, even though I outperformed my peers in creative writing, songwriting, journalism, music production, video production, social media, marketing, radio, sales, performance, presentation, legitimate independent business, learning, and much more. I had all these years stolen from me where I would have been making livable office or arts white-collar industry wages, so lost wages. Also, different video on that whole process. You know, the unlawful hiring practices definitely played a role this whole time too. On top of everything else that's gone into this mass scam. I implore you, find anyone else that graduated from UW-Madison in 2013 with any 2 majors, who had 5+ years work experience at the time, who had to apply to 1,000+ jobs and work 10 more years to get their first permanent office job. Another video coming on that experience. I was shut out and had the door slammed in my face. And as some of you can imagine, I've been treated like dog shit by my coworkers at virtually every job I've had since then. Wisconsin Foundation and Alumni Association, or WFAA, is the arm of UW that handles all incoming investments to the university. So, billions of dollars. I've done an outstanding, phenomenal, perseverant job there. And we'll see how my first yearly review goes. I won't know till June though, you know, but I'm still there and I enjoy it however much I'm allowed to on a given day. I'm happy about the opportunity and I've learned a lot. There are at least a couple people there that don't seem to be living a lie on a daily basis. I'm not attacking WFAA though, so avoid that dumbass culture commentary too, please. I hardly talk about my personal life there because I've found in the past that office people and work people just don't have the mental capacity or maturity to handle hearing about my unique life story and other interests. Am I now in a better position to possibly finally get some justice for this large-scale rip-off and assault? Maybe. We'll see. I'm always working hard and keeping a genuine positive attitude without the passive aggression, gossiping, and oppressive conversations. Like I said, it's been a blessing to finally be granted the opportunity to work in an office, and I hope that people there don't go predictably insane over this fight for justice, trying to figure out which side they believe or which is right, or whatever disgusting privilege culture game is in season now. Those parrot bot types obsessed with thought-terminating cliches and ignorant generalizations that go, "This is why you never," or "never trust blah blah blah." Generally, where I've been permitted to work, managers have insane expectations of me as well because of one reason or another. It's either that I'm a celebrity, rapper, dancer, something racist, sexist, classist, etc. They also make me do more of the crap slave work, turn my harassment into company culture, go sing and dance about that, beefcake, or "you really fucked that up, retard," or "what do you think, you're black or something, white boy, bend over, tall bitch." They and their alliance of rancid coworkers live out fantasies of who I am and spread it like a disease around the workplace. Only takes a week or so before any workplace has wasted enough time to concoct a reason or 500 for "what happened" or "what's wrong with me." And of course, "what are you doing here? You should move to," "why don't you just," "you're too young for this," "you're too old that," "it's too late." Then there's the countless people I've never met pulling up on me outside work. These antagonists justify the litany of attacks on me, an independent, young, disabled man of minority status of Wisconsin, among many other things, living in poverty or just above it, because apparently I ask for it, because my nickname is Beef, or because I rap, or I'm a silly, sweet college white boy from a flyover state, or something along those lines. Again, I've never asked anyone to enslave, torture, abuse, harass, bully, stalk, scam, misrepresent, rob, rape, or kill me. Please stop with the attacks. It was never agreed to, and it has never been anywhere close to a fair game, if that's what you need to hear. We've never been playing a game together or whatever. If you think it's fun to mess with someone, or it's easy to mess with someone, The world would absolutely be better off with you dead and forgotten. Keep that in mind. Abusers have no redeeming qualities by default. They are worthless life forms. I did not challenge you people to a game. I'm not battling you like your culture does in sociopathic games, in these real world privilege games of strategic fake personalities, tone deaf and misinformed hatred, anti-critical thinking, anti-merit, abuse the disadvantaged, where I don't have a sense of humor and can't be trusted because I don't partake. Obviously, the enemy's plan has been to have me murdered, or better yet, convince me to kill myself before this information comes out. I'm not the teach me how to Bucky guy. That's not my nickname, my legal name, government name, stage or artist name, moniker, or alias. That's you being a spineless dumbass. I'm a human being and I have a legal government name as a born citizen of the United States of America. Casually mentioning the teach me how to Bucky guy, or beef, or Cliff, or he, or using my likeness to spread your pseudo-intelligent gibberish is not giving me source credit or legal equality. That's you giving you more equity in place of my equity and my equality. Quincy said he was jumped, but how could I believe that? Because he's a liar by trade and a very weak 6'6" or whatever. But he was involved in an altercation with the other Wisconsin native who worked on the video. He and his brother from Watertown hit him up for non-payment. But of course, Quincy's a disgusting parasite of a person, so this was in the news. Quincy and several others that backed him up just got totally tossed by these guys. And of course, Quincy called the police on him, these Wisconsin natives, and probably sued him. He and Logan, with UW and other state and federal sanctioned support, stole all the money. They've been running this scam for a decade plus. That dude should have been paid for helping film the video as well, especially after the success of it. Cali Swag District should have been paid too. Who knows what he did with the money. I met with a rep for Associated Students of Madison in the spring of 2012, shortly after I produced and performed at the Kid Ink show. ASM is UW-Madison's student government. And shout out Freddie from Who Do You Want Next out of the Twin Cities, and Jill for linking us up. Really with the assists there to put that together. But Freddie and I, we put together a package for Muhammad to present to the organization about a yearly show for UW-Madison students, Wisconsin folks, featuring local openers and then some industry acts, Big Sean and Drake. So we said, bring them to the Kohl Center. And as far as I know, the pitch was denied. The very next year, Revelry Music Festival was started as UW-Madison's yearly show, featuring industry headliners and first wave openers. I interviewed a member of their board, and she knew hardly anything at all about local music or Wisconsin music or even hip hop, and the majority of the board was from Minnesota. I reached out to Madison venues for shows, but they said no local hip hop allowed, no local performers allowed. This was soon after Teach Me How to Bucky too, but they kept saying that. This cliquey Madison hip hop people and their weird angst against me, them and the first wave people, as if I hadn't been a part of the Madison hip-hop scene for 5+ years already, going to shows, releasing projects before Zooniversity. They pushed me away from the first wave opportunity too, and excluded me from Madison shows, even when I was without question the most popular rapper from and in Madison. Fake liberals, regressive conservatives, fascists, whatever it is. These gatekeeper bigots seem to control all creative opportunities in this town with a passion for discrimination based on privilege culture. I managed to sneak in a few shows past these uncultured freaks, but it's taken a lot of work to get little in return, and without justice, it's not a recoverable situation professionally. I continued sending out my projects to entire email lists, individually, rewriting the message, changing the image, link, name, and title or not, handing out CDs and flash drives of my music to any connections I make, leaving my website up on every computer I come across, sticker bombing, talking to bars about shows or playing my music, talking to whoever will listen, updating my website and other pages, putting out various forms of content, writing about music, like they were all against me or a wall against me. Years of this. I was already applying for music industry jobs and we were dropping music at Zooniversity. Also, separately, I was sending out my music to any contact I could find all across America. I had a variety of resumes for the different types of pitches I was given. I hit up all the local Madison venues I knew of, passed out flyers to people in the street, posted on my social media channels, website, collaborated with as many area musicians and producers I could, and shot videos. And keep in mind that 2.5 million views that it is now, or close to it, has been there for years. It hasn't grown much since then, based on the initial 2 million plus boom, but it's been visible, and it's still referenced heavily today. As some of you can imagine, this has been a ridiculously difficult time for me to maintain my sanity. The doctor said I had depression when I was 16. There were some things going on then, kind of just put it in the back of my mind. And I was used to working through life's ups and downs for years prior to that. I had strategies for dealing with the stresses and traumas that came with life. But this all happening to me on such a large scale all at once made life hell, and it has been since 2010. It's been financially brutal, immeasurably painful, incomprehensible to normal people. I got to the most sad, lonely, angry place I've ever been a few years ago. I was out of my mind in another dimension. Your jokes about that are not funny or clever either. And it wasn't because of drugs. Doctors in Madison have diagnosed me with variations of bipolar disorder and depression over the years, but at this point in 2018, I developed a highly severe mental disorder, which I will still not be naming due to aforementioned reasons. Clearly, there's some huge group of people that have made it their life purpose to destroy my life directly since I was born. And there's this widespread pride in this macro level torture of me individually. And of course, I'm also attacked for graduating from UW with degrees or majors in sociology and Spanish, when they both have helped me to better understand how to make sense of this insane adversity, especially sociology, which is straight up fascist that they're saying that. So there's the abuse all throughout childhood at home, then the bullying all throughout the entirety of schooling, and then getting to college, UW pairs up with Quincy and Wisconsin and America and runs an international level scam. No ramifications, repercussions for them. The libel spread all throughout the media, random slander throughout the streets, felony charges put on me based on factual inaccuracies and bad police work. Working in an office now, I see how widespread these types are. Their legally permitted slavery, torture, bullying, etc. of myself is part of their culture's history now, celebrated and laughed at. I was clearly shadow banned in Madison by the same opposing force of hatred, ignorance, insecurity, etc. that's been a part of American culture since its founding. They nuanced their hatred for me and spread it as far as they could, giving me as little credit as possible, to the point I've been told I've never done anything more and more in recent years. I've continued to release music this whole time, but it's gotten a lot more angry, pessimistic, hopeless. It's been hard to work on music at all, especially anything happy or poppy. I've had a tough time making positive, fun music since. The way I've been treated by the masses over the last 13 years has messed up my view of hip-hop, UW, Wisconsin, America, community, education, and much more. I was not attacked by both sides. I was attacked by many more than two sides. Those that do new and significant things in life know what I mean. Made me demonize those who watched this happen to me, and at one point, even including those I didn't know. The reason why I said Teach Me How to Bucky helped me pay for school, or I thought it was true enough as a general response to all the people berating me about the success of my song, was to get this harasser culture out of my face. And because I did use the experience on my resume, which I believe truly helped me get to the position that I did at Nitty Gritty, 93.1 Jams, and Hip Hop DX, closer to my career goals. But by no means did Zooniversity pay for my college or anything significant. I made a few $100s off the Coastie song, like $300 to $500, and another $300 from our second show at the Orpheum, which I negotiated. I had all the rest of the money scammed from me, like I said. Quincy barely bought us anything as a group overall. He bought me breakfast a couple times, lunch a few times, but that's about it. Handful of drinks, maybe a bottle or two, under $100 total. A native Wisconsinite, paying for school, all these other things. He sharing all the disgusting colonialist traits as his forefathers, using historic privilege and laziness to scam natives for their hard work and local culture, lying about it with a story that glorifies the slaver, torturer, abuser, flip-flopping on racism, and then leaving me for dead. Of course, suing him crossed my mind, but he's a direct descendant of William Henry Harrison, and he told me his mom worked for the federal government doing this mystery job. My only experiences with the law led me to believe that it only existed to punish and create pain for those outside the proper demographics. He never had a job in his life either. Me working through school, so money was not an object for him. And as far as I understand it, trademark and copyright laws don't allow me more than a few years after the incident. Of course, I had no rights to begin with. The state and university backing his claim to Zooniversity Music and the Zooniversity Music LLC without question. I've lost a lot of passion for others around me, and honestly, that's bad for you as a resident of Wisconsin. I've been one of the biggest independent advocates for bringing hip hop and the arts industry attention to my state and the working class culture. I've independently increased the application numbers and press coverage for UW-Madison more than anyone in my generation and probably more than anyone alive. I'm owed money, of course, for increasing their enrollment numbers too, as TMHTB's been used as a promotional material for the university. Again, I'm not looking for sympathy. And of course, the office culture, social media rhetoric of today is whether or not you feel sorry for someone in order to allow them justice. But I'm not looking for TikTok type approval. I'm looking for legal and social justice for a litany of crimes committed against me over the course of these last 13 or so years, and the freedom of speech to finally tell my side of the story. I've never asked for everyone around me or accept me to have these rights. I've put my life on the line and work on the line, as I am doing right now, fighting for equality for myself and others. Him describing us during this time did irreparable damage to my career trajectory as well. He was undoubtedly working as hard as he could to strategically hide all opportunities from me, tell others that I wasn't serious or something fake that I never said, lying to recording artists and record labels, saying I was confused or something, whatever buzzword was hot at the time for torturing me. I'm sure since we were in Zooniversity together, he used that as an excuse to tell others that he knew what I would say, or spoke on my behalf. Of course, he was just a lying fanatic, obsessed with it. What kind of crap was he spreading? I don't know. Again, I'm not Professor X or Jean Grey or whatever. But it wasn't just the scamming and torture applied directly to me, but however he was explaining our situation to others. I'm sure he said all the lies and worst things possible that he could about me, but then all the side speak too. The slanted versions of reality that have become normalized since then. I've heard countless interpretations of how I messed up, and he rose above to succeed, and not a single one of them has been based in reality, fact, action, word, event. From now on, I'm no longer answering any form of this what happened question, regardless of who's asking, unless it's in court, of course. I'll just be referencing you to this video. No, I don't believe a single one of you I didn't know types, so go ahead and save that for your own time. Don't waste my time with your fake life or religious ignorance. This is not a generalized attack on UW, Wisconsin, or the United States of America either, so don't manifest that destiny. I love seeing the many videos of kids dancing to my music, families, friends, peoples of all walks of life, finding happiness through my songs. Nothing could take that love we shared through the music away, and all the dancing and good times that we had. And I'm happy you enjoyed Teach Me How to Bucky in particular. Most of you didn't know anything like this was going on then. You fairly assumed that the money you paid for the shirts was going to the creators of the product, or the money from the songs were going to the right people and your messages were reaching both of us. The good news for fans and real supporters is that the concept is real, and my words always come from a genuine place. I'm a very appreciative person, and especially of genuine support. And to all of you, fans and supporters and associates, or whatever the term is for you, of Zooniversity, showing your love over the years. I appreciate you very much. And especially to those that have shown love to my music since then. If you do know a quality lawyer that can help me get some of my money back from those responsible for this mass scamming, send me an email. I've been reaching out for assistance with this case since it happened, and it's not just the one type of crime, it's many, and it's a complex web that involves many people. I figure if there are any halfway decent lawyers out there anywhere, they'll finally see the glaringly obvious injustice stemming from this international level abuse and fraud and realize the opportunity to make a huge sum of money based off my liberation. Maybe not. But at least the truth about Zooniversity music will be out there in one form, one video, more easily consumable in one sitting. There's no need for further threats and attacks and blacklisting. I've had enough of those for millions of American lifetimes. I'm sure people are going to play around in the comments, and I'm well prepared for that, so don't worry. I've been mentally preparing for this for years, so I'm prepared for that, the social media insanity, and then also the backlash from the lunatics that will make themselves apparent at work, of course. I'm not breaking any laws here or any contracts, so miss me with that nonsense too. This is a huge moment for me, and it's exhilarating. I know I'm scripting this out, but I want to get all my thoughts out. So thank you very much for watching, and I appreciate the genuine people that have heard me out entirely.